E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinois Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad that you tuned in. The messages of inspirational stories has just been a wonderful blessing for all of us here at the TV station. And we're so glad that you joined us today, and all the folks around the world who tune in, because as our numbers grow and our viewing audience grow, it makes us feel very, very good deep down inside. And we believe the reason it goes and grows like that is because of all the great information that we share with you. And today is no exception. We're going to be sharing some great information with you, things that you can bite into and take home and that sort of thing. But before I begin, we've got to remember Donna. Donna's on emergency, I guess you call it emergency leave. She's on a family emergency, taking care of her family situation there with her sister. We do not have any details or anything like that. And even if we did, we would not share it. But we humbly mention Donna, and we say, Donna, you're in our thoughts and prayers. So please keep Donna in your thoughts and prayers. I know they would be greatly appreciated. And when we say we keep Donna in our thoughts and prayers, you know, we do it and we mean it. So Donna, we love you. We're thinking of you. And if there's anything that we can be of assistance to you, prayer. I know one thing, keeping her in your thoughts and prayers would be a great help to her at this time. So please keep Donna in your thoughts and prayers. And with us today, filling in, is our great friend, old buddy. I'm the old guy. He's the young buddy, Mr. Emerson Brantley. Emerson is our director of marketing. He's also, let me put up his website there before I bring him on. Emerson's website is web3direct.com. And there's his website right there, web3direct.com. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Emerson to the show. Hey, sir, how you doing today?
Hi, Jim. It's good to be here again.
It's good to have you here. It's always good to have you here because you and I, we go back a long ways. And ladies and gentlemen, I first met Emerson. I was in a class that he was teaching called Brand Response. And I never will forget, first day in there, I may have had 2 sips of coffee out of my cup of coffee. And we started the class. He looked at me and he says, Jim, what's the first thing you want to do in marketing? And I'm sitting there and I think, it ain't even hardly 8:30 in the morning. You know, I'm still trying to figure out my mental GPS, where I'm at, what this class is about and all that. And I said, I don't know, attract everybody. He says, no, you want to repel everybody you can't help. And I remember I left and I looked around the class. Everybody's kind of like looking at me. And I said, well, it's obvious I need this class. You remember that, Emerson?
Oh, yeah. Well, it really is the secret to not just to marketing and business as a whole, but also life.
Yes.
Is instead of always running and gunning and trying to get everything you can, or as I like to say, get all you can and can all you get, in relationships, in stuff in your house.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in just in general, it's really getting crystal clear on who and what you don't want in your life.
Yes.
And once you do that, it just kind of, it's like Moses parting the waters, or God, I should say. It wasn't Moses. In fact, he kind of got in trouble about that. But it's like the parting of the water, or the Red Sea. And the path starts becoming crystal clear.
Yes.
And you're not looking at or worried about all of this on either side. You're zoned in on the kind of people that you want to be around,
Mhm.
You're zoned in on the things that are important and the things that aren't important. And likewise in business, when you figure out who you don't want,
Mhm.
you start really zoning in a way with your message that you attract the people who resonate with you, who
Sure.
identify with you, who feel like you care and who want
Mhm.
to work with you. And so
Mhm.
money, price, and supply chain issues, and just about everything else start becoming secondary
Mhm.
to that relationship. So,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because as you were mentioning that, one of our common friends popped into my mind, and that's Mr. Bill Heinrich.
oh yeah,
Yeah, Bill is a great guy. He has the book. I've got it here, The 7 Levels of Truth. Bill, that's his picture in the back. Let me move it a little closer. You can go to his website there. You see True Life Purpose Now at the very bottom there.
yep.
TrueLifePurposeNow.com. Bill will be happy to give you 30 minutes of complimentary consultation, no charge, because Bill talks a lot about what you were talking about, and that's what popped in my head. Uh, Whenever there's something going on in the physical world that you cannot control what people think about you or say about you or feel about you and all that, but you can let it go. Don't let it consume you. Because if you're stuck in the physical, you've automatically pulled down the big door
Yep.
to all the energy and love that's coming to your way, because you have a pre-designed path. And your energy and the love from above is what's going to be the fuel and guide you. It'll be your guiding light. But if you're bogged down mentally in the physical world with things that you cannot change, it's like worrying about the weather. Is a storm going to hit my house? You know, you can't change that. So stop worrying about it.
No,
And
the only thing that we have any control over changing is our own life. And when you get right down to it, the core of that, which is what we've been talking about here over the last few weeks,
Mhm.
the core of that is changing your thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And when the thing that we have 100% control over, 100% control over, is our brain and our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's some mental illness, some disease of the mind or body
Mm-hmm.
that has directly affected your brain in a way that you just have errant, crazy thoughts all the time.
Mm.
You have control over what you think, how you process information, how you frame the world. And I
Mm-hmm.
say a lot of times, perception is reality, and it really is.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we perceive and man, I mean, if you ever thought that was some airy fairy concept, all we have to do is look at society today, and you have people on one side who see things as horrible and terrible and falling apart, and other people who see things as not horrible and terrible and falling apart, or however you want to frame it. I'm just saying that there's two people can look at exactly the same thing and have radically different interpretations of it. If there's never been any proof beyond that, Jim,
Mm-hmm.
that this is the part that we can control, and
Yes.
our perception creates our reality.
Mm-hmm.
So that is reality.
Yeah.
And what Napoleon Hill and what W. Clement Stone in the book we've been going through here, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude,
Mm-hmm.
what they did was groundbreaking, because they really zoned it right in on it's this that matters at the end
Yes.
of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Not it's what you think and how you think, how you process,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever your reality is, your outlook, the way that
Mm-hmm.
your life is, the things in your life that you're happy with or unhappy with, whatever is that is there, you can change that.
Yes.
You can go from a wonderful, happy life to a miserable, horrible life pretty darn quickly. You
Yeah.
can, you really can. If
Oh,
that's your,
yeah.
you really, really can. Or you can go from a mediocre life, or a life that you're dissatisfied with, that you're unhappy with, to an incredibly full and exhilarating and exciting and positive life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The difference isn't any of the stuff around us. The difference is right here. And I think you pulled a story out of the book for today. I don't know if you're ready to get to it yet, but that really highlights that.
Oh yeah. In fact, we
I
were
was
just
there
going
for a setup.
Hey, that's real good, brother. In fact, we were talking earlier today, we wanted to touch lightly on national days, and one is the National Smile Day. A smile day should be something you wear every single day of your life.
Yes.
And that's extremely important. And the other thing about today, the National Day, is, to protect our hearing, because that's very important. And when I mentioned it to Emerson, he says, huh? Yeah.
Well,
But
you missed another big one there too, Jim. I mean, I
what's
can't
that?
say it, but I mean, one that is just a massive, massive importance to a lot of people. And it's National Macaroon Day.
Oh, yes, sir. Slap me and wake me up. I beg your forgiveness.
It's funny. It's funny. How do these days become the days,
Yeah.
There's not an official global body that determines all of this. And you and I have talked about this a lot. It's like Mother's Day, really? You can thank like Hallmark cards, for that. And of course, the florist industry, they get all over those days too. But, the idea of a Mother's Day went back to the Civil War, but it wasn't really until the marketing campaign began, somewhere in the 19 teens or 20s, somewhere in there, that it really took off. And it was all designed to sell cards. I mean, and flowers and and candy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of other ones like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've shared with you. I don't know if I've shared with our viewers, but one of the easiest things to get in almost any town of any size is to get mayoral proclamations, a proclamation from the mayor's office. And then you go and get it printed in the newspaper and all this other stuff. I've done it on numerous occasions, and it doesn't cost anything to do. Most places will have one day that you can go down and do it, but it's just an amazing thing, because at the end of the day, almost all of these things that we see like that are either, they're based in marketing, either to market some product or service like macaroons, right? Or something like that, or to market some cause. It may be a charity, or it may be a disease,
right,
for awareness. There's another day here that's a disease awareness day, a particular one. And, different reasons behind them. But making a day is because somebody decided up here to make it a day.
Yeah. Emerson and I, we're working on creating a day, aren't we? We're gonna call it the Jim and Emerson Day.
I like that.
Was it Emerson and Jim? You get top billing, brother.
It doesn't matter to me, man, as long as they get the donation page right.
Oh, okay. But I remember when I was back when I was an instructor in the reserves, one of my fellow instructors came in and he says, I am so sick and tired of Valentine's Day. My goodness gracious. I mean, the way they advertise it, he says, if you don't show up with a dozen roses and a pound of chocolates and some other kind of a gift, they make you feel like you're a cheapskate. And all gifts, regardless of what it is, it should be from the heart. Like a simple rose to someone, from a guy to his girl, and have him to say, I love you from the bottom of my heart. And this rose means that this rose represents me, my heart, and my love for you. That's worth more than all that. But it's true.
Just to write it out and put it,
On a Hallmark card.
Well, just to write it out and draw a heart on a piece of paper. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
you know, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to have these days
Yeah.
in
That's
order
true.
to say and do the things or
Yeah.
to be engaged.
Right. It should be spontaneous from the heart.
Should be, yeah. And I believe today or tomorrow is like, it's an international day that's recognized of not smoking, you know. So
That's today,
it brings attention to an issue like that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of good reasons to
Mm-hmm.
have a day. I at one time I used to think they must have run out of days or something by now, but just like today's also National Macaroon Day.
Yeah,
you can just keep plugging more in there. They don't run out.
There you go. After the show, ladies and gentlemen, we're all invited over to Emerson's place for some macaroons.
Macaroons and coffee. There you go.
We're talking downtown now. It don't get any better than that. Or is that uptown? That's uptown right there.
Uptown Saturday night. That's what it'll be.
There you go. There you go. And, you know, we were talking earlier in the show about how our mind, the way we look at something, can determine, well, what did Zig Ziglar say? Your attitude will determine your altitude in life. Yeah. And
yeah.
Emerson, we're going to share a story here, and I'm going to let you take the lead on it if you like, or I could take the lead, doesn't matter. But the guy's name is Milo, M-I-L-O. C was middle initial. Jones was his last name. And let me just start out by saying he had a very small farm in Wisconsin. And, you know, like a lot of small farmers, my dad had a small farm, and I know how much work went into that, raising cotton and corn. And I know that we, well, as I like to say, man, I've said many times, we were rich in the things that money couldn't buy, but we did not realize how poor we were financially till we went to town. And that's a true story. And I'm not complaining or anything. I laugh about it because what we were rich in were the things that money could not buy. And what Milo C. Jones was rich in after he was struck with a paralysis that paralyzed him from, I guess, from the neck down, if I remember correctly, Emerson. But it did not cripple his mind, did it, sir?
Right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go ahead, sir.
Well, and I want to kick back to the quote that you were making a minute ago.
Okay.
It was your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude.
That's right.
So a lot of people can you know, we tend to find crutches and excuses and things a lot of times in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't make great grades in school, or I never finished high school, or I never went to college, or, you know, or I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have the other, and it's not aptitude. And to that, the Milo story here adds, it's not even your physical ability, because he lost all use of his physical body, but he didn't lose the use of his brain. And the brain's an amazing thing. As Don and I have talked about, we both have had issues, mm-hmm. damaging circumstances to our brain. Mm-hmm. And the brain has the amazing ability to come back, the elasticity of the brain to mm-hmm. rebuild synapses where there's damage. And you know, I tell people, Jim, we've talked about this, that you to stop thinking in terms of 100% of anything.
Oh yeah.
And think instead of continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. That continuous improvement, as the Japanese call it, kaizen, means you always can be improving. There is nobody on this plane on this planet, this earthly plane, that will ever be 100% of every single possible thing that a successful or a person can be.
Oh yeah.
None of us. So we can always be improving. There's
Mhm.
continuous improvement.
Mhm.
And, this is something in this story that Stone tells about Milo is here he was a farmer. That's it's a very physical life,
Mhm. Oh,
It's
yeah.
very physical. It demands a lot of every aspect of your physical being. And he was stricken with what apparently was an incurable paralysis. That's enough to devastate people. It's
Mhm.
enough to put people to put anybody into a depression, into
Mhm.
just despair. And he
Giving
wanted to
up.
be able to provide for his family like anybody does. It's not limited to men, and anybody, you
Mhm.
know, wants to provide for their family, but he felt helpless. Everything that society said made him a man had been stripped away.
Wow.
It had been completely stripped out of his life in an incredibly physically demanding life.
Mhm.
And rather than let that define him,
Mm.
this doesn't mean that he was a saint or some super duper,
Mm-mm.
I'm sure, this story is only about a page and a half long,
Mhm.
but I'm sure he went through deep soul searching
Oh,
and
you know
and
it.
low, just despair and
Self-doubt.
hopelessness, and prayer, and how am I
Mm.
going to provide for my family? How are we going to keep the farm going? How?
Mhm.
The difference with Milo is he shifted his thinking, and that really that's a good word to write down for everybody, is the
Mhm.
shift. It's
Yes.
just a shift. It isn't it's not even a major huge change. It's just a slight shift
Mhm.
in his thinking, and he started looking at what they could do and change the way things were being done.
Mhm.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
you want to kick in on some of the story here, or you want me
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll be glad to.
I can tell
Y-
the whole thing, but
Yeah.
let's do it back and forth here.
Okay. All right.
Be more fun.
Yeah. In other words, Emerson's saying, tag, you're it.
Yeah, tag, you're it.
Yeah, because the thing that I really love about Milo C. Jones, he had to be, for him to think outside the box and do things
Yes.
differently, he had to be forced into a desperate situation. And I believe with all my heart that that poor guy, he suffered at times.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, self doubt entered his mind. You know, he's probably thinking, here you are thinking about, what you're going to do and all that, and you can't even move your arm or your leg. Imagine how he felt laying there when he's been so active all of his life, hardworking, wiping sweat. He can't even wipe sweat off his brow now. Chances are, if he does sweat, it's going to be in the house. He won't be able to wipe the sweat off his brow then.
And
But
this is
think of,
50, 60, 70, 80 years ago.
yeah,
There weren't a lot of treatments. There weren't a lot of great rehab centers. There weren't,
no,
it was
no,
bedridden at home,
yeah.
and changes everything for the whole family.
It sure does. Everybody, you're going to find out real. That's one of those situations where you find out real quick who loves you. you know, I mean, but Milo, he laid there and he started thinking because he accepted the fact. And sometimes that's important to accept and realize that where you are right now is the perfect place for you. I want you to embrace that because that's a hard thing sometimes for us to get our mental minds wrapped around. For me to say right now, Jim Grant, no matter what's going on in your life, you're at the perfect place for you. And sometimes you think about that and you go like, are you kidding me? This is not perfect at all. That's okay because where you're at right now is the perfect place for you. It's not where you're going to be. And that was one of the things that I think, and I could be wrong, but I believe Milo C. Jones accepted that. He embraced it. Says, okay, I may be paralyzed, but my mind is not paralyzed.
Right.
That's the mental shift there. I want you to, as Emerson very well put out very nicely. And that's the shift in the mind that, he looked to what he did have that was not paralyzed, counted his blessings. And he got his family. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have a more recent example that more people may have heard of.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're going to finish telling the story of Milo here, but
sure.
But Stephen Hawking,
oh.
great physicist, while he was in school, while he was still at university, began developing the debilitating illness that eventually put him into a wheelchair, where the only way that he could talk was puffing. He could puff into this little computer that would generate this voice. And yet he advanced physics and our understanding of the universe way beyond anything that he solved problems that Einstein had left unsolved, when he died. And the thing is, in our own time, we can look at somebody like that and say, okay, well, yeah, but he was a super duper brain, that's why. No, he suffered the same kinds of things that Milo, who we're talking about, suffered. That the mental, and let's keep it on the mental. The mental part of it is the thing that makes the difference.
Yes,
because he could have easily said, "I'm in a wheelchair. I can't speak without this, device. I can't move my arms. I can't feed myself. I can't clean myself. What's my point in living?"
Yeah.
But he continued to use the thing that he and Milo had, the thing that every single viewer has, which is this gray matter in the 8 inches between our brain, or between our skull. Our brain is you know what I mean. It's that part right there.
In between the ears.
In between the ears. Thank you. We all have that. And it's not, again, it's not your aptitude that determines your altitude.
Right.
It's your attitude. Attitude not just being, hey, I've got a great attitude. But attitude being, I'm going to find the seed of a greater or equal benefit in this adversity that I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. And that's a great story that you mentioned there about Stephen. I mean, it's just, just amazing what he did. And it's just, because he could very well easily self-justified a story in his mind. That's what handicaps us. That's what cripples us, is that when we build up the, the reason I'm not successful in life, I don't have any money, I can't start a business. My father left when I was, I never knew my dad, I never got a degree. These are all stories we build up in our minds that we feel like self-justifies why we should remain on the pathway of hard times and failures and all that to make us feel better.
And I'll tell you, there are plenty of people who will encourage that and support that and give you every reason under the sun why that's so.
Oh, yeah.
The hard part is finding the people who will tell you that you can do something different.
Yes.
What's the other alternative? I think you have it in you. Why don't you try this?
Yeah.
Why don't you go for it? I support you in this. I believe that you can. It's harder to find those people.
It really is.
And Jim, sometimes it's harder for us to believe those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it makes us come out of our comfort zone and give up our story, that we've been living to. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And because so many times the story becomes defining who we are, and it isn't. It's a myth. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that Bill covers a lot in his book, The 7 Levels of Truth. And if someone does buy his book, Emerson and I do not receive any money from that at all, because Bill's a friend of ours. The main thing is that we want to share great
What was that $1
information
million
with
he
you.
was talking about? What? We don't get
Yeah.
$1 million if they buy a book?
Oh, he said 1 million thank yous. You
Thank
heard
yous.
dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Buy the book anyway. It's a good book.
Yeah. Tell him Emerson sent you. I'll let you get all the thank yous there, brother. No, we're having a little fun here. But Bill don't even know that we're actually promoting his book on the
I was
TV
going to
show.
say, I haven't talked to Bill in, I don't know, a couple of months probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's been, I stay in touch with him time to time, but I've never told him that we do promote his book on the show because I just never felt it was important, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And on the ticker,
Bill went through my class too. I don't know if he was in the
yes,
class
he
with you or
did.
not.
Yeah, he was not. Me and Don were in the same class.
Right.
The first one there, and that was
Dandy
in
Don.
July. Yeah, me and Dandy Don. Dandy Don McGrath. He's a dandy guy. And but Bill is where I met. Speaking Empire is where I met Bill, and that's where we all met.
And your son was in the class too, right?
Yes, he was. He had just came back from Iraq. He was in Group Power Day, I think, and he had just come home from Iraq, and James had just been awarded the Bronze Star.
Right.
And that was way back in 2017, I think, or something like that.
You're right.
Yeah. And
that's 5 years ago, Jim.
Wow. Time flies and having fun. Anyway, we have
right?
Yeah, we get to talking here, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. We forgot about Milo C. Jones. He's still in the bed.
Milo C. Jones here.
Yeah, Milo he's still in the bed, but he's paralyzed. But then he did, after much thinking, he called his family together. Now, it doesn't say in the book, but I'm kind of curious. I wonder what his family thought. When it says his family, it didn't identify how many sons he had or daughters or anything like that. If he had 1 or 2 sons or more or not, we don't know. But I wonder how they felt when they saw their dad and the wife saw her husband, who they've all known throughout his life as being a super hyper guy that worked hard every day out there in the field, because farmers put in long hours. So that's no exaggeration. Everybody knows that. Around the world, farmers are the hardest working people on planet Earth.
Yep.
And here he is. He calls his family in. Now visualize this. He's laying in bed. If he sneezes, he can't even wipe his nose.
It's true.
Think about that. And he tells his family, and let me read the actual words so I don't slaughter it, because
I was going to say, read it from right here.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see here. It says he was stricken with extensive paralysis here. Let me get my place here right now. And when it was John, he knew his body was paralyzed. I'm going on. Okay.
Just a little spoiler alert for any of our viewers who are vegetarians.
Yes. Yeah.
He did not create a vegetarian solution.
No.
Let's put it that way. Although he could have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was not a vegetarian solution. So just please don't be offended, but take the principles from this.
Yeah, I want to set the tone there, because he was interviewed. So this is not some hearsay story. This was a actual thing of what he said. He says, first he counted his blessings. He discovered that he had so very much for which to be thankful for. And you think about the heartbeat in your veins and the breath in your lungs and good health that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to be thankful for right there, regardless of what's going on in your life. Okay. And he said, because he was, searching for, among other things, a way to be useful. That was a key. He had not give up on living. He was searching for ways to be useful. He found it, recognized that for which he was looking. It was a plan and it required action. So here we go. So he went into a mental action. Now, imagine this. He calls his family in. He says, I am no longer able to work with my hands. So I have decided to work with my mind. Every one of you, if you will, take the place of my hands, feet, and physical body. Let's plant every tillable acre of our farm in corn. Then let's raise pigs and feed them the corn. Let's slaughter the pigs while they are young and tender and convert them into sausages. And then we can package them and sell them under a brand name. We'll sell them in retail stores all over the country. And then he chuckled. And he said to his family, they'll sell like hotcakes. And they did, because I remember growing up, the brand name, Jones's Little Pig Sausage, that was a brand name in everybody's house. We saw it on TV, everything. Mm-hmm. But none of that would have come to reality if he had accepted his plight as being handicapped and unuseful. That's the thing. He was handicapped, but he knew that he could still be useful.
Yeah.
And contribute to life. And that's what you were talking about, Steve Hawkins, there earlier. Yeah. He was handicapped. No one had to explain that to him, but he knew with his mind he could still be useful. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, with all of your talents and your gifts that you have, the intelligence that you have, how can you contribute to society? Be a blessing to others, because that's what life's about.
Yep.
It really is. It's not about, what do you say that? I got to get that straight between my ears. Get all you can and can all you get, or something.
Get all you can and can all you get.
That's the
philosophy. Now. That's the philosophy of a lot of people.
Amen.
And businesses.
Oh yeah.
And it's not a healthy philosophy.
No. No.
And it's one that actually it actually messes up so much of our life.
Oh.
If it's in your personal life, a lot of times it's the pursuit of stuff, just having lots of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with stuff. There's not, you don't need to live in a bare house or anything else, but there's never enough stuff.
Oh yeah.
And in business, I want as many customers as I can get. I want to get all I can and can all I get is the way that it was presented to me as I was growing up.
Oh yeah.
But it's not an attitude of bringing value.
Not
it's
at all.
not an attitude of building relationships that matter. It's an attitude of sheer numbers.
Yes.
And the more numbers I get, the more dollars I get, the more toys I get, and he who has the most toys when he dies wins.
Yeah.
It's an empty kind of of an attitude that doesn't put the value on the relationships that we build and the value that we bring to other people.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And in the case of Milo, his mind was thinking beyond. He was thinking beyond just being a farmer, growing his grain or whatever he grew, selling it, planting again for next year. And he was thinking beyond that to something that brought more value to more people. And the reciprocity in that is that it brings more value back to you ultimately.
Yes.
In a business, if you take a business, and let's take the example that you gave that first day in the class. Why do I not want some people? Well, who do I not want? I don't want the tire kickers. I don't want the people who are just negative. I don't want the people who demean my people. I don't want the people who all they do is complain. And when you bend over backwards to solve the problem and do right by them, their response isn't thank you or loyalty or joy, it's well, you should have got it right the first time.
Yeah.
And what do?
Yeah.
They go and tell 10 other people
Mm-hmm.
about, I can't believe that they did this and that and the other. They should have done it right the first time. Well, they finally fixed it after I went back in. Blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why do you need that?
Mm-hmm.
And the very best place to head that off is before they become a customer or client. And in your personal life, the very best place to head it off, isn't even a first date. It's before the first date. But if it's on the first date, that's the time to hand it, to stop it. It's putting the value, first of all, standing in your own value. So Milo had to stand in his own value. He had to rediscover his value to do that. His value had largely been defined by what he could do with his hands, by the work on the farm, by if this was a good harvest season, or if it was a bad harvest season, or if he paid the bank note this year. And all of these little measuring sticks that were laid on him. Milo had to redefine that and find his value that he could stand in.
Yeah.
I'm saying stand figuratively here.
His
value that he could own. And ultimately, that was here. And so what he did was, instead of focusing on what he had lost, as Robert Schuller used to say, don't focus on what you've lost, focus on what you have left.
Right.
He focused on what he had, which was here. And that gave him the idea of completely changing the paradigm, for that great old lady's term, changing the paradigm of that farm and the way that they had worked it, to where the farm wasn't just about growing, raising a crop, selling a crop, but it was about growing a crop that allowed them to create a product, that allowed them to have a whole different market, that allowed them to have something that was year round, and that they could brand. Let's step back from branding, because he talks about branding it as part of it. In life, and again, I'm going to say in business, but it's the same. The same is true in what's true in your personal life is true in a business. What's true in your business is true in your personal life. We tend to want to separate them, but you can't. It's like Solomon coming in to decide whose baby it was and saying, okay, we'll cut the baby in half. It's not something you can do. You can't separate you from you. So when he was looking at this, standing in his value, seeing the possibility, he said, let's be a brand. We'll make a brand out of this. The difference between a brand and a commodity, that's the other word that we use in business and marketing. A commodity is something that's just by bulk. It's all the same. I mean, do you really care what the brand gas is that you use? Some of you out there may say, I mean, I remember back in the day, well, I use Amoco or Standard. I use Amoco gas. It's that white gas. It doesn't have all that other stuff in it. That was just the way they made it, I only use Eggland's Best eggs because they're lower in cholesterol and fat. The difference between a commodity, it's all the same. The only thing that really matters is the price.
Yes.
If it's all the same, go for the lowest price. But if you have a brand, people will pay more for that. And they will become loyal to the brand. And they'll tell, well, I like this one better than that one. Well, that's branding it. And whatever those values are that you've applied to it, the value propositions that you've made for it, those are the things that people will identify with that brand. So in our personal life, we brand ourselves. Are you a can-do person? Are you somebody who's 5 minutes ahead is 10 minutes behind to you? Are you somebody who you always get the job done? Are you somebody who's loyal, who's dependable? Are you somebody who's kind? Are you somebody who's generous?
Mhm.
Those are all brands
Yeah.
around you. And so our brand is something that is an extension of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
But if I look at a football stadium with 80,000 people, do I see you and your brand in that? No, I see a commodity. I just see 80,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference that he wanted to make was a bushel of corn is a bushel of corn is a bushel of corn. My
Right.
corn's no different than yours, and I'm sorry to tell you, Orville Redenbacher's is still corn, right? No, see, Orville Redenbacher made a brand, and they did certain things differently.
Mm-hmm.
But still,
Yeah.
a bushel of corn is a bushel of corn is a bushel of corn. A sausage is a sausage is a sausage. There aren't very many things more of a commodity than sausages,
Yeah.
right? So he said, wait a minute, we're going to make one, and we're going to brand it, and we're going to share why it's special. And
Yeah.
because we share why it's special, people will begin to see it as special.
Mm-hmm.
And they will buy it. And it won't matter if we have a good crop or a bad crop.
Mm-hmm.
It won't matter if it's winter time and spring hasn't come and the money's running tight. We'll have something that'll sell year round
Mm-hmm.
because we'll create a brand and we will create a product that goes beyond the farm.
It's really amazing how he already had all of that spelled out,
All in his head.
all in his mind. He had it all figured out.
All figured
And,
out.
his cause, of course, was to, provide for his family, sure, but also, too, he wanted to provide a delicious, sausage. And he told people, Jones's Little Piggy Sausage or Little Pig Sausage, this is and he just described, it almost, described a flavor of how it would taste. Now, Emerson,
Well, he ended up. I mean, the end of the story. I'm just going to jump down to the chase on it. I know you can fill in the gaps there, but
go ahead.
But it worked phenomenally. His family became millionaires as a result.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, as a result of his illness, they became millionaires. No.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are stricken with the same paralysis that he had. There are a lot of people who went into despair. There are a lot of people who lost their marriages and lost their families and lost their income and had to go on public assistance and on and on and on and on, who had exactly the same illness.
Yeah.
It was what he did with this that mattered.
Yes.
Not how smart he was, but it wasn't his aptitude that determined his altitude. It was his attitude.
Yeah. Because he got put into a place to where he was kind of desperate. Let's be honest. He had to look for the seed of a greater benefit. And because he did not focus on his problems, his physical limitations, he looked at a higher source. And that's how he found the answer that fit him perfectly. Now,
well, you said that really right, Jim. He looked for that seed.
Yeah. He sure did.
What Hill said and Stone said was, in every adversity is the seed of a greater or equal benefit.
Yeah.
Well, you got to look for that seed. It's not always every cloud has a silver lining. Oh, look at the silver lining. Isn't that easy? Sometimes you got to dig, you got to try to figure it out. And it's not always an easy process.
No.
And it takes determination and willingness to say, I'm going to find this seed.
That's why it goes right back to what you've heard me say many times about you don't make decisions, because and when you make decisions, you can build this mental box inside your mind and you're inside that box.
Yep.
And nothing that doesn't belong in that box is going to get in that box. That's why you look for options. And when you're searching for the seed of a greater benefit, whenever you're going through hard times, tough times, trying times, if you open your eyes and look for the seed, search for it, it will come to you, and it will be equal or better than what you're faced with. But one thing I wanted to share is, Emerson, you do a great job of this here. We talk a lot here on the show, and Emerson's taught me a lot about, Jim, what's your cause? Because your cause must always be bigger than you. Because what happens with the cause, and I'm going to give you condensed here, let Emerson go because Emerson's great at this. Your cause is what attracts like-minded people to your brand, to who you are, what you're about. And those are the kind of people you want to be associated with. You don't want to be associated with people who are totally 180 from you. You really don't. There's no harmony there. There's no balance. But having a cause, that's so, because sharing your cause, that a portion of all sales goes directly to whatever that cause is. And people who are, who like that cause, they're automatically migrated to you because you have something in common, like-minded people. That's what builds long-term relationships. And I'm going to let you pick up there. And we got about 4 minutes left. Let Emerson say what he likes there.
Yeah, the thing, and some of the viewers may have heard me say this before. I would tell clients, this isn't about putting a barrel in your waiting area, and if you bring in a can of beans, you get 10% off on Thursday. This isn't some tricky kind of a scheme. This is about what is important to you, and what are you willing to identify your business with. Mm-hmm. That's the first part of it. What is your business going to be 100% behind? The second part of it is, if somebody comes to you and they say, I don't really care about this stuff you're doing over here. If you want to do that, that's up to you. I just want the best price. Just get, have the wherewithal, have the guts, if you will, or the grit to basically say, I don't really think we're probably the right fit. Mm-hmm. Well, their money's green. Their credit card's good. No, it's not about their credit card. It's not about their money. It's about, you have different values that are conflicting there, and that is not going to work out well. It's going to cost you business. It's going to cost you money. It's going to end up, it's not going to be a pleasant relationship along the way. But you don't have to be mean and ugly. Give them away. Give them to another competitor. Give them, suggest to them that they go and buy from somebody else because they can serve them better. I mean, honestly, having the cause that's higher is going to attract the like-minded people. And those are the ones who love you. They listen to you. They'll buy from you again and again. They'll do what you tell them to do. They'll forgive you when you screw up. We all screw up. They'll forgive it really quick. They'll feel like they're family. They'll feel guilty if they go somewhere else, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think I said they'll send you endless referrals, but they'll be long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. And that's what we want.
Yes.
Those are easy people to work with. You want the ones that when the phone rings, you say, man, it's her. I haven't had a chance to talk to her in weeks. You don't want to be oh man, it's her. Oh, gee, I got to talk to her again. It's like, you want the ones that together, there's an energy there. Jim talks a lot about following the energy. Well, this is following the energy. And it ends up, what goes around comes around, folks. It does. That's just a law of the universe. It goes around, comes around. Subaru set about to have zero waste at all of their facilities. And when they got to zero waste, they looked around and they said, let's go to the National Park Service that has a huge waste problem. Plastic bottles and bags and garbage and it's horrible. They said, let's go to the National Park Service and let's take what we've learned and help all of the national parks have zero waste too. Well, there are people who will buy a Subaru today because of that. And the Subaru is a great car. I'm not saying it's not. But the thing is, there are people that, because Subaru has taken a stand, they've planted that flag in the ground, right? They've taken a stand for something higher than just selling their cars. There are people who gravitate to them and have a shared value system. And they won't buy one. They'll buy 2 or 3. They'll buy them for their kids when their kids go off to college. These are the kinds of value adds that you get when you have a cause higher than just yourself.
Yes. Yes. You're exactly right. And, you think about that, that Subaru story, that's a fantastic one. I love it when you share that because, if you could go buy another brand car that's equivalent, both of them are identical. The only difference is, Subaru is got its car there, and the other manufacturer got their car there, and they're both pretty close on price. And you find out about Subaru's cause and what they're doing, and it aligns with you. That's going to attract you just like a magnet. And that is what you want to do with your cause. Your reason you exist is to attract people to you that's like-minded to you, because that's how you build a marketing relationship.
And people will pay more for that.
Yes.
In business, they will pay more for that relationship and for that connection.
Yeah.
They will, because it's a value add.
Yeah. They want to give money they'd rather pay a little more to someone they know, like, and respect. That's got the same type of morals, values, and ethics that they have. That's priceless.
Yes.
That is priceless. And my goodness, Emerson, we got to do this again because we're out of time. Yeah, we're out of time because, we're just so fortunate to have Emerson with us, and he fills in with us, and he's got so much knowledge he enjoys sharing, and we love having him on the show, especially being associated with Emerson as our director of marketing. And sir, it's a pleasure just being your friend, because what attracted Emerson to us and us to Emerson was here again. We're like-minded. Our morals, our values, our beliefs, our ethics, it's in perfect harmony. And that's what builds friendships. That's what builds marketing relationships. And that's what makes life worth living. But as we close today, again, we want to mention Donna. We got you in our thoughts and our prayers. We ask for you folks out there to keep Donna in your thoughts and her family. Yes, thank you.